We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
It is not, generally speaking, unruly, but fires have been started. And
Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, the people.
My honor to introduce to you the 45th and the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
In America, the impossible is what we do best. There is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. We will restore America's promise and we will rebuild the nation that we love. We will stand bravely, dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours. The golden age of America begins right now. America's decline is over. We will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth. I am with you. I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. The golden age of America begins right now.
Yes, it does. Welcome, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to episode number 88, the Sunday edition of Just Our Take. I am your host, John. This is my co-host, Dave. and I didn't watch 2 seconds of the game. How about you?
It's the Super Bowl Sunday edition. I know you don't want to say that, but I watched 3 quarters. I love it. I watched 3 quarters of the game, and I was sitting with a group of people that were rooting for the Eagles because of how they feel about Taylor Swift.
Oh, wait. Taylor Swift? You mean this Taylor Swift?
Wait. Yes. That's the one.
Oh, they don't love me.
What? What did I do? What did I do?
They don't love me. They don't love me.
So I'm sitting in a room filled with people, and they're just every single time. Poor Mahomes. I mean, he's a good guy. His wife's, by the way, a Patriot. But every time he got sacked, everyone's cheering. They don't even care that Philadelphia wins or doesn't win, but they just want to see Taylor Swift ego bruised. Anyways, I'm doing great, John. It was a fun game.
Pretty sure she got her ego bruised tonight. It's not often that when she's shown on the big screen that they boo her. So
no, and then the opposite's also true. They didn't, by the way, on TV, they didn't flip to her or Trump at all, except for just, I think, the very beginning of the game. They flipped to Trump for just a moment, and then after that, that was it. And of course, he got a rounding applause. Everyone was cheering, which is pretty exciting. So, good evening, everybody. Good evening, John. And yes, I raced back because I want to make sure I'm here on time, and I think I made it by 3 seconds. Welcome to Just Our Take. And as the name implies, this is our take, it's our opinion. You may agree, you may disagree. If you disagree, that's fine. We're good with that. Just throw it in the comments. Let us know if we missed something. You want to help us learn something new or think of a different perspective, please feel free to share. So you didn't watch 1 minute of the game. That's all right, John. You know, you can always watch some of the replays on X or YouTube or TikTok or whatever.
No, I'm totally good. Totally 100%. Don't need to watch a second of it. I try not to be the boycotter because, I just try not to be, but let me just tell you, I am and have been boycotting the NFL for a number of years. I don't know that they could do anything to get me back. And I can tell you, when I see what the referees have been doing, I don't see any need to come back. So,
yeah. Lots of controversy there for sure. And I'm with you. Once they started kneeling and, taking a knee for the national anthem or for some not even coming out of the locker room, maybe I'll take a break. And I did. I took a break. And then the NFL, I think, quickly realized, oh my God, this is for real. We lost a lot of money.
They haven't realized because they're still playing the Black National Anthem at the beginning of the game.
I didn't hear that today.
They did. There is one national anthem. You don't have to. You do not get to divide us. And so when they keep doing that BS, I'm not in. I'm just not. But anyway, don't want to get my blood pressure going so early in the show. We do have a banger tonight. We talked about. It's funny because when we would come up and get ready for the show before, I'm saying November 5th, we were excited. There was a lot of things going on, but that was kind of like the front, the garden hose on high, lot coming at you. You got to be. Now we got 40 fire hoses. We're talking the 3-inch fire hoses, and all of them going full force.
Yeah.
So it's been that kind of time since the 20th, and I'm loving it, but it does make for a bit of a challenge. They played it in the pre-show. Again, the NFL hasn't learned. They have not learned. If you want to divide this country, go ahead, but I won't participate. So sorry. Rant. John's rant.
John's rant. You didn't put it up, but hey, look, I respect your point of view.
There's one national anthem, David. Period. One.
No, I'm with you. I'm telling you, I didn't see a second one being played, but it could be that we missed it.
Sorry. So Marie said that it was played in the pregame show,
which we probably didn't watch. No one watches the pregame.
Well, apparently
Marie did. Sorry, Marie. You watched the pregame.
She did. Anyway, so lots to talk about tonight, but let's kick it off with let me just go through David's notes. David has done some great things to try to keep me on track, and I really appreciate you, David, for doing this. I am okay. I just went through that. I'm going to talk about some headlines because to try to keep us on track, there's so many things that we would like to put in the show. Sometimes we don't have time for all of them. I will tell you that DOGE is a big hit tonight, and it will be making a comeback to tonight's show, as well as USAID. Although we did promise after last week when we were doing our wrap up, we're like, yeah, we can't really overplay this USAID, and then they come back with more. But big headlines this week: biological males are banned from women's sports, and immediately following that, the NCAA came out and said there's a ban on biological males in NCAA sports. Secretary of Defense Hegseth has hit the ground running, and man, is he making some things happen. Anti-Trump federal employees leak ICE raid plans to the LA Times. This was going to be their biggest raid to date, and these federal employees went out there and said, hey, this is where they're coming, this is where they're going to go, and you guys might want to hide. So great job, federal employees, you traitors.
Hey,
DOGE
John.
continues fraud, waste, and abuse. Let me just get these headlines. Come on now. Netanyahu shows some support for President Gaza plan. DHS Secretary Noam resolves 80% of Western North Carolina cases in just 5 days. LA Recovery Chief Steve Soboroff drops $500,000 salary request and agrees to work for free after Richard Grinnell came out and said, why are you charging $500 million for this stuff? I'm sorry, $500,000 for this stuff. Southern border crossings are down 90%. Trump's approval rating is way up. And then Trump this week is supposed to meet with Vladimir Zelensky to discuss a peace deal. There's much more, but that's what I fit in the headlines.
I was going to say,
sorry,
that was a good list.
Like that fire hose out there. So
that was a good list. I was going to ask you, so the LA Times, the owner of the LA Times, whose name I should know by now, did he publish the information? Did he share it?
Oh yeah, they published it 100%.
That's too bad.
Yep.
That's disappointing. Considering his point of view around the elections, where he said, I'm not going to go and endorse I'm not going to go and endorse Kamala Harris. That's not what we're about. We're not supposed to be a biased newspaper. So I was kind of hoping they would stick to that. Yeah.
No, I was even really surprised that Chad Bianco, who is generally a really good sheriff down in Riverside County, California, Chad Bianco came out and said that they will have no dealings with the immigration at all. Which, I get it. You don't want to go rounding them up, but if you have someone that is a known violent offender and a non-citizen in your custody, it's legal. It's by law. You have to contact ICE to have them deported. And they're saying that they're not going to do that, which is just not right.
Also, it's the right thing to do for your community. That person, if they're willing to commit a crime and know that they have a safe place to hang out, what do you think's going to happen next? Like, you just told them it's okay to do that. Hey, on your comment about, there's a lot going on your comment about that. I'll play this super quick one. This is Caitlin Collins kind of talking about what it's like to be a reporter so far, just 3 weeks in.
So you're doing this every day. You're in DC. Yes. The pace of the Trump administration seems to be moving pretty quickly. How are you holding up?
It is insane. And I think everyone is kind of like readjusting and re-remembering what it was like 4 years ago, 4 years ago. I remember when Biden first took office in January, the New York Times wrote the story about how quiet the weekends were, because for reporters, every weekend had just been like it was like a 7-day work week. And now we're back to that, basically, where it's just essentially nonstop every day. You kind of wake up like not knowing what you're going to be doing, what the schedule is. I was walking to get breakfast one day this week. I was like, okay, I'm going to have a nice little breakfast before I go to work. And halfway there, they're like, Trump's doing a press conference in an hour. And I physically ran back home so I could change and get ready.
So,
that's the pace. I mean, we look at it and we see just event after event after event after event. It's all goodness. And you just wonder, like, this must be laid out on a calendar. All right, we can't do everything on Sunday. Let's leave some things for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Just incredible, the pace.
So here's a kickoff. We're going to get into some of the DOGE stuff and And, you know, Doge has been just doing an amazing job, way, way more than any of us ever could have imagined. Now, if you'll remember, last week we talked about how our belief at Just Our Take is that Doge is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the very beginning of the fraud, waste, and abuse that they're going to find. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one on stage. We'll have a listen to him. He's got a very great capture right there. That was a perfect place to stop him, isn't it? Sorry about that, Mister. I didn't mean to do that.
The ending will blow your mind.
This USAID thing is so much worse than people realize. Do y'all remember when people were angry at Elon Musk for buying Twitter for $40 billion? Because he could have solved world hunger with that money. Okay? Keep that same energy. Okay? We were supposed to have sent like somewhere around $200 billion to Ukraine. Remember all those little packages? Well, even Zelensky says that only about half of it even got there. So there's $100 billion that's just floating around somewhere. That could have solved world hunger. But your government was so inefficient and so corrupt, and you don't even care about it? In fact, you're more mad that we stopped USAID for a minute and paused it so we can figure out what the flip all of our money's going to, bro. This is not a normal response. Your reaction is being manipulated by the media. It has to be, because you would be mad under any other circumstances. Imagine your dad left you a business that used to make you $100 a month, and now that business is losing you like $10,000 a month. You would go in and go, what's going on? And it's like, pretend it's a mattress company. And you look at the expenditures and you're like, well, these aren't springs and cotton and mattress sheets and things like that. No, we're buying cement in Dubai for 10 times the price that anybody else ever paid. What's going on? And then one of the managers comes up to you and goes, hey, you're not supposed to have access to this warehouse. What are you even doing in here? You would be like, I'm getting scammed so hard. Pause everything. Everybody's going to jail, bro. Meanwhile, Maui, North Carolina, and California are all burning down, and we never seem to have enough money for that. Hell, Flint, Michigan's water costs like $1.5 billion, and it would be fixed, bro. We give Ethiopia more than that every year. And then you start looking at all the politicians that have been connected to this thing, and you wonder, why are these guys yelling so much? And you look into how they're receiving their revenue. Oh, it goes out in USAID, it does a little cool loop-de-loop dance, and then comes back to their families. Oh, well, Ross, if it was this bad, the news would have told us about it. Nope, because the other thing USAID is funding is all of the freaking media, bro. They are deciding what you guys think, which is why all of them have made you all think that we're the bad guys this whole time. They knew that if we won, we would see this and cut off their funding. There's a movie called The Truman Show with Jim Carrey, where basically everything around him is like a controlled environment and things like that. If you found out that all of the same opinions that you've had from the media for the last 10 years were funded and created for you to have those opinions, wouldn't you pump the brakes a little bit and start thinking maybe the right wingers aren't so bad? We voted for this so we can see all the leeches that are sucking the money out of all of our company, bro. Join the team.
Bro,
buying concrete in Dubai for 10 times what anybody would pay for it. There'd be a problem there, right?
yeah, the guy, first of all, I just got to give him daddy props for, apparently his baby was putting up a fuss at one point. And I don't know if you saw that one cut where he actually was holding the baby. You can see the baby's arm right up there. It's like, good job, Dad. And he kept right on going. Way to go.
Right on going. That was a great
But
cut.
there was, nothing was, I can't argue with anything he said. And he just put it out there. And that's the part. I saw a clip. And I didn't look again. We could put 50,000 things. The show could be never ending with all of the meat that's out there right now. But I saw Bernie Sanders come out and he's talking about the richest man in the world, a billionaire, because he's got to put that out there. The richest man in the world wants to cut funding for the poorest people in the world. And now they're all going to starve to death.
They're all going to starve to death.
I'm guessing that the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and we're not talking about PSO, we're talking about the Transgender Siberian Orchestra, is going to do just fine without our funding.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. You're incensed now. Where were you for the last 45 years? I don't know how long he's been in office, long time. And by the way, you have a bone to pick with the Democratic Party. How many times have they told you you're not allowed to run for president? You, at some point, if you care about the people, Bernie, have to say, we are wasting money. We could solve whatever, a climate crisis, world hunger, whatever you want to solve. You've got hundreds of billions of dollars to use to do it, but you don't. You wait to pick on somebody on the other side. Makes you a
by the
little-
way, why don't we take our money and solve the homeless crisis? Why don't we take our money and solve the water problem in Flint, Michigan? Why don't we take our money and solve the water problem in California? I mean, let's do those things. And it's funny because in John F. Kennedy's speech where he's talking about we're going to go to the moon and do all the things, he's talking about all the things for the United States first. John F. Kennedy was doing that. And so with that money, they're talking, the sad part is that there's still a portion of the populace that believes what they are saying because they've been hearing it for so long. The good news is, and I was talking to someone today, a good friend of mine, they moved back to Tennessee, and they said, the good news is with all the stuff that's happening, there's going to be an awakening. And with the money that's going to be taken away from these media hacks, they're not going to be able to do their pre-programming anymore. They're not going to be able to put out all of the word of the bad guys anymore, if you will. When you go back, and we talked about this last week, over 6,000 reporters were getting money from USAID. Why did they need our money? Why? Right. What kind of U.S. aid is that?
And the BBC, and the BBC and other agencies from around the world. Why are we funding that? We have no business funding any of that.
Okay, so we talked about that, and I talked to David. You and I, David and I spent 3 hours on the phone last night. I don't know if you realized it was 3 hours, but it was. We spent 3 hours on the phone last night talking about so many things and just kind of going through all of the different niches and what have you. And we talked about how we kind of felt like this was the tip of the iceberg, and how when we thought, man, what's going to happen next? And then I kind of made the analogy. They're throwing all these things out here, like the trans orchestra and the comic book, the Sesame Street, in Iraq, and the comic books and all of that. They're throwing that out here because we are so, numb to these things. Because do you remember the Pentagon's $2,000 hammer and the $5,000 toilet seat? Yep. They've been telling us this stuff since the Ronald Reagan days. And we're just sitting here going, yeah, we're still doing that. And nothing ever happens. We're still doing it. So when they say all these things, we're just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Okay, well, how about this? Let's take a look at this. David, do you want to give this read? Do you want me to hang that out there?
Let me make it a little bigger on my screen, and I'm happy to. All right, this research from Ian Carroll's show on USAID funding is insane. Agency for International Development, by the way. That's not aid as in let me help you. Ian says roughly 93% of USAID funding is estimated to be fraud. Like, just let that sink in for a second. 93%. It's a $46 billion fund. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and their friends appear to be the top money laundering recipients. The majority of the sub-awards being given out by USAID are all just transporting pharmaceutical products all around the world to all sorts of developing nations. That makes sense. We would transport pharmaceutical products everywhere. It's mostly AIDS drugs, more AIDS drugs than you can ever imagine an entire planet needing. Which, by the way, I don't even remember AIDS being a global epidemic, by the way. I don't even remember hearing about outbreaks of AIDS anymore. So clearly there's a mismatch there. The main company transporting all these pharmaceuticals all around the world, only 7% of the health commodity shipments delivered through this program arrived at their destination on time and in full. 7%. Holy smokes. This means 93% of the shipments they sent in that quarter either arrived incomplete or did not arrive within the 21-day window allotted and agreed to by the buyer. There was a contract to build a power plant in Afghanistan that was paid for through USAID. It was never finished. It's producing 2% of the power it was intended to generate. This happened when Hillary Clinton was led the State Department. The company's CEO was indicted for shipping money from USAID reconstruction contracts.
Siphoning, sorry.
Well, what did I say?
I said shipping, but it's okay.
Well, shipping, siphoning. The company's CEO was indicted for siphoning. He was taking money out, stealing it and then probably shipping it somewhere. Siphoning money from USAID reconstruction contracts in Iraq and Afghanistan, because that's what USAID is for. It's for Hillary Clinton's friends to siphon money out into their own pockets. But wait, there's more. The firm that built the power plant that never got finished and doesn't work, they're represented by John Podesta, you might remember that name, and his lobbying group. This man was heavily involved in the Pizzagate scandals and Hillary Clinton's 2016 failed run at the presidency. It goes on to talk about how Podesta was tasked to come up with these sustainable development goals for this Council of International Development Companies. One of those companies was that's the largest recipient of USAID money there is. That same company thrived during Clinton's tenure, nabbing more contracts than the Haiti reconstruction effort, nabbing more contracts during the Haiti reconstruction effort than any other company. Oh, back to Haiti again. It all comes back to Haiti. After the disaster in Haiti, they moved to Afghanistan. The same company continued to win lucrative USAID contracts in 2011 in Afghanistan. The project was intended to create 300,000 jobs by 2013. After 2 years, it had created 2,458 jobs. And these jobs are supposed to be created in Afghanistan, right?
Yep.
That's good, because that's where we need to create jobs. Okay, last one in this paragraph, this section. In May 2009, the same company won a $90 million contract to grow exports and employment in the Pakistan economy. Get this. The USAID Inspector General found no measurable increase in the sales or employment after the first 2 years of the project, but they're still allowed to be the largest recipient of USAID money, ? Also,
Sorry.
Also, but wait, there's more. They were bribing the Taliban with our tax dollars, not to attack their projects. They were giving money to the Taliban basically as a protection racket. This is the deep state. It's been being built over the last 20 years, ever since Bill Clinton's time, and even before, out of these proxy companies, these non-government organizations, NGO for short. These charitable organizations, all these shadow kind of organizations that you don't know about, that we don't elect, that are some of them private, some of them public, all of them in the shadows, just wheeling and dealing billions and billions and billions of dollars of taxpayer money, and that just goes into the black box of aid and is never heard from again. Oh, and Pfizer is the second largest recipient. Are you sick yet?
So that's a little overview. And then we come to find out that there was 515 billion with a B, $515 billion that were basically at one point or another, they were approved by Congress. So there's this bill that says, we're going to go build a school in Zimbabwe. And that's going to be funded at $1.8 million. What? I'm just making something up. Well, it gets funded back in 1985, and it's still being funded. So they never stopped writing those checks. It's already been approved, so they keep writing those checks. And there's $515 billion of these type of programs out there that were either expired or gone long past their approval. And some of these companies that they were writing checks to don't even exist anymore. But there was somebody in the Treasury that was told, you approve all checks. We send you a request for a check, you sign it. And that's what they did.
I just want to bring a receipt before you go deeper into this. So this is cbo.gov, right? So the Congressional Budget Office, they're the ones who evaluate when you come out with this $2 trillion save the planet bill. They're the ones who will say, here's the impact of that bill on the budget, and here's what will happen with inflation and the whole bit. Anyway, so there's a really good write-up on on what John's talking about, but what I wanted to do is move down here and highlight. If I can get back to it quickly for you. In CBO's estimation, 49% of authorizations identified for this report expired at least a decade ago. The oldest expired in 1980. More than 70% of such authorizations were for specified amounts of annual funding that, when combined, totaled $101 billion for the year when they were last in effect. The remainder authorized appropriations of indefinite amounts.
So we talked last week about 58 billion. 58 billion is the number that I heard for USAID. You're saying it's 47. Let's split the hairs, whatever. It's $50 billion for USAID. We told you that was the tip of the iceberg. Now here, just in this one, it's 10 times that amount. It's $500 billion. And it's just being signed off on. Yep. Okay, do it. And again, these are expired programs. So the question I have, if these companies don't even exist or the programs don't exist anymore, where's the money going? Yeah, okay, I got another one. I got another video for you. Sorry, let me toss this one up here because I think this one's going to be fun too. Because these are all very fun.
I like the fun one.
So more coming out from DOGE. Apparently this time it's the U.S. Treasury Department, who has more waste and abuse of taxpayer funds than so far anything else that they've looked at. 23%. And it appears that there are people receiving entitlements to the tune of $50 billion with a B dollars a year that have no known social security number or ID on file. 50 billion, that's $1 billion a week in fraud and abuse. But not only is $1 billion a week going to unknown sources with no social security numbers and no valid ID, in addition to that, apparently the Treasury Department doesn't keep itemized records of their payouts. So there's no way to follow up and check as to where the money is going. So as of right now, the Treasury Department and Elon Musk DOGE has agreed that going forward, the Treasury Department will now itemize all of the payments that they make, like where the money's going, to what entities, to whom. It is shocking to me, and it should be shocking to every taxpayer, that our own Treasury Department has no accountability and keeps no formal records of where they're paying and what they're paying. We could not get away with that at home with our own budgets. And could you imagine if the IRS came into our houses and said, well, I want to see itemized list of all these things that you pay, and we didn't have it? They would say, well, we're just going to assume that you did X, Y, Z, and we're just going to slap what we think you owe. But there's no accountability on their end.
I mean, by the way, a couple things. One, my take, I think they destroyed, hid, or are hiding records that show where the money went. But what they've said is, we didn't keep great records. We're the Treasury. We didn't keep great records, but going forward, we promise to do a better job. I call bull. Number two, Scott Bessent was interviewed, and he said, these were Treasury employees, not DOGE employees that were actually trying to access records, and we were denied. It's our job, and you're denying us access to things. And then he also went on to say that the computer systems that they're using are written some of them are written in COBOL. John, I don't know if you remember that, but that's a programming language that hasn't been used in, I don't even know when, 15 years, 20 years. I don't know how long it's been.
Yeah. You may remember I was a programmer at one point. So
that's right.
I take to heart that learn to code piece. Hey, how about this one? You'll like this one. And I know our audience will love this one too. Elon Musk this morning put a X out. What do you even call it? It's not a tweet anymore. It's an X, whatever. He put a post out this morning. He said, Can you believe it? The Social Security system does not have a system in place that would look for duplicate records.
I saw that.
So you could have 10 Social Security accounts in there receiving benefits 10 times using the same Social Security number. They don't have a duplicate detector. How?
There was also a comment made that the Social Security admin was sending regular payments of 180 to 225K in grants to Ukraine.
That's the lockbox. Social Security lockbox, right?
I'm just saying, I think about people that are living like Social Security is their only means of income. Because John, it's not, it's not a lot. It's not meant to be the only way it's not meant to be your only source of income. But for a lot of people, it is their only source of income. Imagine that we take money from that fund and we ship it someplace else instead of just saying, you've worked 30, 40 years, 50 years. Here, let's help you have enough money to actually afford a basic lifestyle so you're not living in a tent. But instead, we send it over to Ukraine. I don't know. I'm lost for words.
So the fact is, the average person that worked, if they started Social Security when they were 18 years old, they started putting into Social Security, and if it's minimal amounts, and they worked until they were 55 years old, they would be able to make a living or live off of the Social Security benefits. It would be about a $95,000 payout per person on average. Now, some are going to be lower, some will be higher, but on average, it would be about a $95,000 payout if they hadn't screwed us over and taken that money and sent it to Ukraine and every other pet projects. It was supposed to be a lockbox. You cannot touch it. But the other side of it is they also planned in advance that it would be something that they could take from, because they had already put out the payout tables years ago. And they knew they weren't going to pay out what you put in.
Which is why there's a big push to move away from or give people a choice. Do you want to pay into a national pension, meaning like Social Security, or would you like to instead of taking your money and giving it to the government to manage for you, you can put it into your own 401k or Roth IRA of some sort. Just take your money and go invest it yourself versus giving it to the government to hold on to and one day give back to you with far less than what you could ever possibly have earned if you had just saved it yourself for a lifetime. So there's a big push with
all this. I agree with you. I think that and they've been talking about that for literally a couple decades.
Yeah.
And I think the argument that they've always made is that we're better stewards of your money than you are. As you can see, they're definitely better stewards of our money. But with all of this money that we're finding that we are giving away, I'm pretty sure that they could right-size this. I'm pretty sure that they could fix it and make it good and make us all whole again. But that's, we'll see what ends up coming of that. I do want to tell you that that's not the end of it. Because I know you guys are all loving this. I can see when people start running in all caps, they're starting to get a little bit frustrated. Yes, Big Balls for those of you who don't know, Big Balls was the moniker that one of the people on the Doge team was going by. He's a youngster to me, of course. And he didn't want to put his real name out there, although the good people at one of the social media companies or one of the news media companies outed him and doxed him and put his real name out. But anyway, he goes by Big Balls. Good for him. Most of these people, they are young geniuses. What most of them are have some form of autism. Most of them are like the idiot savant style of Elon Musk, who has come out and said that yes, he has an autistic. He's on the spectrum. But what better people to do? First of all, I think it's genius from the one standpoint. They are able to tap into parts of the brain that none of us can. And they're able to dig into these things without distraction pretty easily. And it's pretty awesome to watch them work. However, are these guys going to be making fun of them? Are they going to mock these people that are on the Doge team and then get called out for mocking these autistic, workers that are busting their tails? I don't think so. But there is something else. One of the other things that they found was an 800 I believe, $40 billion payment. Or not payment, sorry, $840 billion discrepancy in the Department of Defense, actually specifically the Pentagon. And what they found was that they were still paying payments to programs that had been discontinued years ago. So let's say back in 1994, they discontinued a torpedo system because it's obsolete. And that torpedo was made by, I'm just making it up, please don't sue me, this is the General Packies. I'm going to call it General Packies because I don't want to say the name of another defense contractor and have them sue the Just Our Take show for all 10 cents of our revenue. But let's just say that we've been writing these checks to the General Packies for the Mark IV Mod 12 torpedo package that was discontinued in 94. They keep writing those checks, and they've been writing those checks all this time, to the tune at this point, it's $840 billion. Now you take that with the $517 billion that we showed you earlier, $516 billion that we showed you earlier, that's $1.3 trillion of waste that they found right now on top of the USAID stuff that they've already found. And they're just getting warmed up. What's next, Dave? Where do you think they're going next?
Well, let's talk about that in a second. But before you move on, how many times has the Defense Department been audited? I guess, is it the Pentagon that gets audited? And I remember us talking about this and something about they haven't passed an audit in a while. And maybe you can add some color there.
Yeah, I think I have that here, right? Don't I? Is that a... Oh, sorry.
And I don't remember the stats, but
That's
something like they haven't
one.
passed an audit since before 9/11, I think is what's ringing in my ears from our conversation.
Yeah, so I think what happened, let's just see if this is it. So in 9/10 of 2001, that's the day before the infamous strike on the United States.
Oh, yes.
Donald Rumsfeld came out and said, we have misplaced $2.3 trillion with a T, trillion dollars at the Pentagon. Now, I believe that's cumulative. I don't think it was a one-time deal.
Right.
But they couldn't account for $2.3 trillion. And ever since then, they've never passed an audit. And the most recent audit was down by 800 some odd trillion or billion dollars.
Okay, so you'll really enjoy this little interview right here. So this is
Samantha Powers.
What's that?
Is that Samantha Powers?
I think so. I didn't catch the name, but it looks like her. So, okay, you'll love this.
To be doing, like, there is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse within a system.
Audits and waste, fraud, and abuse are not the same thing. So let's decompose
Then
these.
please educate me on
Sure.
what
So an
gonna
audit is
decompose them.
exactly what
Decompose them.
you
We're going to
just
decompose
described,
them.
which is, do I know what was delivered to which place?
Right.
The ability to pass an audit or the fact that the DoD has not passed an audit is not suggestive of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is completely false right there. So
what is
now?
Just pausing for a second. Just because they can't pass an audit doesn't mean there was any waste or abuse. All right, I'll keep going. And just you just got to let that sink in for a second. Like, let that reverberate.
So what is
now is a question of, it's suggestive that we don't have an accurate inventory that we can pull up of what we have where. That is not the same as saying we can't do that because waste, fraud, and abuse has occurred.
So in my world,
yeah,
that's waste.
How is that waste?
If I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that to me is wasteful. That means you are not responsible. But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? And when there has been reporting, I mean, this is not, like, I'm not saying this is on you and that you caused this, but I think it's a tough argument to make that
I can cause it.
an $850 billion budget to an organization that can't pass an audit and tell you where that money went. Like, I think most people would consider that somewhere in the realm of waste, fraud, or abuse, because they would wonder why that money isn't well accounted for. And especially when they see food insecurity on military bases and they see.
You want to talk about that? Because that's a good, we should be talking. I mean,
Well,
I'm
it's
trying to
all-
understand
is-
where you're trying to go.
There's more. I could keep going. It's a really good clip. Could you imagine? IRS. I know you want you want to audit me, but you know what? You can't audit me, but I haven't abused anything. There's no fraud. I'm not doing anything wrong. If you could just move along, or I don't know. That's the first one that came to mind, because when you get audited by the IRS, they can expect you to pay some taxes, but hey, my records aren't that good. You know, that's the way it is. I'm not trying to cheat you. I just can't find my records.
Just because I can't tell you where the money is doesn't mean I cheated.
Yeah, exactly. God, and get off my back. Anyways, thought you'd enjoy that one.
Yeah, I think that was Samantha Powers, who was fired from USAID.
Fired. Do you want, there's a minute left, but we can save it.
Yeah, go for it. Go for
it. Well, okay, I'll let it roll.
Than the dollars, which really bother you.
I think it doesn't really bother me. I think it's all connected.
Okay.
I think
tell
when
me that story. Tell me how you're thinking about
story.
When I see a State Department get a certain amount of money and a military budget be 10 times that, and I see a struggle within government to get people like more basic services, and then that department that got that, I mean, we got out of 20 years of war and the Pentagon got a $50 billion raise. Like, that's shocking to me. Now, I may not understand exactly the ins and outs and the incredible magic of an audit, but I'm a human being who lives on the earth and can't figure out how $850 billion to a department means that the rank and file still have to be on food stamps. Like, to me, that's fucking corruption. I'm sorry. If that blows your mind, and if you think like that's like a crazy agenda for me to have, I really think that that's institutional thinking, and that it's not looking at the day-to-day reality of the people that you call the greatest fighting force in the world. So I just, again, I get back to this idea of like, I'm not looking to pick a fight with you, but I am surprised at that the reaction to these questions are, you don't know what an audit is, bucko. Like, that's just weird to me.
Okay.
You don't know what an audit is, bucko. So I apologize for the F-bomb. I'd forgotten it was in there. He was trying to hold his composure, but that was his way of letting it out. Like, this is asinine. How on earth can you laugh about this and dismiss this? It's a lot of money, and people are not able to feed themselves, yet you can't even account for hundreds of billions of dollars. There's a problem here, and it's sad that you can't see it.
Yeah, she was an ambassador to the UN under Barack Obama. She was a warmonger. She was the one who said that we should go militarily into places like Libya to intervene when there was some disruption there. Again, not our place, but hey, you know, why miss an opportunity to do a great big war and spend some more of that money that's not that big a deal?
It's not that big a deal, and it's way over there, by the way. God, what are you getting all flustered about? Tip of the iceberg. I think, okay, so then you asked me, where are we going next?
I've got another one. You ready for this?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. Sorry. Steve, where are you? Oh, wait, it's Scott. Sorry.
It's Scott.
Where is Scott? Yeah. So here we are. President Trump has instructed Elon Musk and DOGE to audit the Pentagon. My mind went immediately to Donald Rumsfeld announcing they cannot account for over $2.3 trillion one day before 9/11. The Pentagon has not passed any of its audits since then. Since they began in 2018, there were no audits publicly acknowledged before this date. So let's not, I mean, you are taking the bulk of all of the money in the United States government, and we're not going to audit you. It's in the most recent audit, the Pentagon couldn't account for 50% of its $3.8 trillion, leaving $1.9 trillion unaccounted for. Let's just take a look at what old Donnie had to say here. What do you say?
We are, as they say, tangled in our anchor chain. Our financial systems are decades old. According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions. We cannot share information from floor to floor in this building because it's stored on dozens of different technological systems that are inaccessible or incompatible.
So that's his excuse.
Yeah, it's not my fault. We can't even communicate with each other. It's not my fault. I you know, and so tip of the iceberg. By the way, related. I don't know if you saw this. So this guy who is heir to the Levi Strauss Foundation.
Did see that, yeah.
Yeah, and he's New York representative in New York. He's got $30 million in the Cayman. It came from a nonprofit, from an NGO that funded a nonprofit. So 30 million here, 50 million there.
I into something I have over here. I know it's shocking, but let's put this one up here. My mouse is giving me a hard time today. I don't know why.
There really is a sort of USAID Truman Show that much of the world lives in. You know, many people found out for the first time this week that 90% of media in Ukraine is funded by USAID. Many people just now finding out, you know, the extent of U.S. media organizations that are funded by USAID. You know, they're finding out the reach of it in everything from the unions to social media censorship to pandemic and gain of function research to strange ties even to things like terrorism and the drug trade. These institutions that everyone thought were private and independent being corrupted by, you know, USAID's $44 billion odd a year budget. When I would do my little private briefings, and it was impossible, frankly, to crack through. Even when people saw the receipts on screen, they saw the source documents, they just couldn't conceive that the world actually works this way, that our country does these things. They don't want to believe certain things. And so even if it's 6 inches in front of their face, they won't.
It's just the way it is.
Was it Steve Hinton? I'm trying to make sure I say his name right.
Hilton,
yeah, Steve Hilton. Do you remember he broke this? This goes way back. It was in 21, I want to say it was early 21. He did a whole series on showing the receipts for Ecolab and Fauci and the government funding it and Fauci signing off on it. And he went from the U.S. I forget what state it was that had a lab, and then it became illegal to do gain of function research here. Moved out to Wuhan, and then it was illegal. But he funded the Eco Lab, who then funded the Wuhan lab. And then, of course, you know, once the whole outbreak happened, they went and had their 3-hour audit. Who did it? It was the person who runs Eco Lab. Like the whole thing, he went back and forth. He showed all the receipts. And what did he get for it? You're a conspiracy theorist, an anti-vaxxer. It's like, I'm just showing you, like, this is the money. You mentioned Ukraine. I got to share this. Now, this may have been already seen by people. If it has, I apologize. I still thought it was really interesting. Especially the jangly music.
This is for you.
Oh, Sean.
Yes.
No,
please.
That is yours.
No, I feel terrible outside. It's just a symbolic, silly thing.
Yes, but
if I know this is here with you, then I'll feel better and stronger for the fight.
So great to honor, but until we will.
When you win, bring it back to Malibu.
Right.
Yes.
Great. Okay.
Because I'll feel much better knowing there's a piece of me here.
We have to be. A moment which is very important. It's not from me. It's from Ukraine. It's more from the President of Ukraine. Our thanks for
So, in his finest T-shirt, by the way, you may have heard this already, and I'm sure people have, but our USAID funded all kinds of celebrities to go over to Ukraine to participate in these kinds of interactions so they could legitimize and make Zelensky look cool and help raise both money and emotional support for what was happening between Ukraine and Russia, which would of course they mean, they have to win this fight.
Did you see how much he got for that, for going over there?
Actually, I think I have that, but no, tell us, what did he get?
No, I think Sean Penn got $8 million to go over there. It was either $4 or $8 million for going over there. Because, he's a has-been washed up actor with an anger problem and used to beat his wife. But, that's according to the news.
He has a nice t-shirt on. It's nicer than the one I have. Okay, here's what I have. Now, this is alleged because I didn't go validate this myself, although it's all over the place. Angelina Jolie apparently got $20 million. Orlando Bloom had $8 million. Orlando Bloom came out later. Oh no, it was Ben Stiller. Sean Penn got $5 million. Sorry, Sean. Ben Stiller got $4 million. He came out later and said that he actually paid his own way, that he didn't receive any money. I don't know.
Of course he did.
All I know is, why is the U.S. Agency for International Development paying actors to go to Ukraine?
You know the answer. It's all corrupt. It's all 100% corrupt. I'm going to show you one more of our actors.
Sir, I want to start with what the Trump administration really acknowledges, that this is their strategy. Flood the zone, do as much at once as they can to overwhelm the system and Democrats like you. A lot of what they're doing, though, was laid out in Project 2025, which you and other Democrats repeatedly warned voters about. So why didn't you have a better plan?
Well, again, I think the plan right now is working as 4 parts. One is a legal strategy to stop him from violating the separation of powers, from violating our civil service laws, civil rights laws. And we're winning. We've seen 41 cases being taken, 10 of them last week, 12 of them, were successful in stopping some of his illegal actions. The next is a legislative and oversight effort to really try to expose it, not to treat this as Democrat versus Republican, right or left, but really right or wrong, and continue to try to use our positions procedurally as well as legislatively to stop what he's doing. And then finally, perhaps most importantly, because all of us have to have a role, from the media to everyday citizens, which is shining a light on the dark corners of what they're doing and how it is actually endangering Americans' lives, is threatening to raise the cost of people's everyday goods and inflation and more. We've been successful in the past, from turning up the heat on him to stopping him from tearing away health care in his first administration, to even when he did one of those awful illegal acts of trying to stop government funding of our first responders, our veterans, our meal programs. The outrage of Americans actually stopped them from what they were doing, and then our legal strategy further put a bar on their ability to stop sourcing and funding vital resources for communities.
The New York Times reported that when pushed by fellow Democrats to do more to stop Trump, the Democratic Senate leader Chuck Schumer pointed in part to your leadership, what you're doing on social media and the messaging there. David Corn, who is a prominent journalist on the left, described your strategy as bringing a teaspoon to a gunfight. And he added, this is not how a party battling for its survival and the survival of the nations behave. What do you say to that?
Again, I've been blown away by what I'm seeing, by everyday citizens joining together and beginning to shine a much better light on what's happening. Take USAID and the efforts last week to show that what the Trump administration has done is make Americans less safe from diseases like Ebola or treatment-resistant tuberculosis, taking away scientists on the front line of fighting these infectious diseases, because we know infectious diseases anywhere are a threat to human safety everywhere. And so a lot of the things that Trump is doing, that some of the biggest officials in our state, like, remember Secretary Mattis, his defense secretary, saying very bluntly, if you cut these kind of programs in the State Department, buy me more bullets, because it's going to mean that we're going to use military more. By shining a light on these things, by elevating, as we've seen online this past week, literally hundreds of millions of shares and likes, exposing what's going on, this is giving us more strength in actually stopping him from doing what he's doing.
Well, if they got shares and likes, it must be doing good, right?
Yeah, if you get shares and likes, that means you're doing a good job.
I was shocked when he said, sorry, I was just shocked when he said that they're winning. I'm like, wait, what planet are you on, Corey?
Well, that's what Nancy Pelosi said. So now that's the new message. We're winning. We got one seat over here. I don't know what you guys are talking about. We're winning. And that's the new tagline.
Okay. Knock yourself out. Keep winning like that, please. Because it's making us all laugh and smile.
It's like running backwards on a race or shooting to the wrong basket in basketball, or I could keep going, but I mean, you're not winning. What you,
I got another video.
You know how you could, I was going to say, you know how you could win though? What you could do is you could say, let me think about this. A lot of really bad stuff's come to light. A lot of mismanagements come to light. Ask yourself the first question. Am I associated with that? Do I owe anybody? Have I taken from the candy bowl? And if the answer is no, then maybe step aside from the cabal and say, you know what? Actually, the people of our country do expect me and you as elected officials to be transparent and honest. We do need these audits. That's what you could do. And then we'd earn.
But the truth is make American people are fat, dumb, and happy. They just think that, as long as I got my paycheck and they're living paycheck to paycheck and, they keep their head down, they don't make eye contact with anybody. They just move along, keep moving along, and they don't. And I think that part of this process right now is the awakening. And it's like, do you guys get it? Are you starting to understand what they've been doing to you? They are enslaving you. And that's not hyperbole. That is absolute truth. They're enslaving you by taking all of your money, giving it to go back to the subway system that I showed you in Russia. There's no reason in the world we couldn't have stuff like that, finer, cleaner, nicer, more accessible to everyone here in the United States. When you look at the amount of money we're giving away or pissing away or stealing from ourselves, it's just sickening.
That's just it. And I think about young people today saying two things. One, I'll never be able to afford a house. And quite frankly, until there's a housing correction, they're not wrong. Like trying to buy a house now, it's like $1 million in Los Angeles. You got to have for a house, you got to have $1 million for nothing special. It's incredible how little you get for how much it costs. And by the way, to pay $1 million mortgage, because unless you don't have it, you can't do it. So they are locked out. That's the first thing they talk about. The second thing is they're having to ask the question, is it worth it to go to college? Now, instead, I would love for young people to say, what should I study? I want to study how to be an electrician or how to be an astronaut. I don't really care. Like pick the path that you have passion for. But for so many young people today to go to a university or even some of the trade schools, you're going to accept the fact that you're going to go way deep in debt. And that debt, by the way, you can't just absolve that. Well, how could our country perhaps right-size that by making much bigger investments in secondary education instead of sending it over for a trans opera in whatever country that was?
We can talk about that, but I'd also even argue that our institution of higher education or higher learning have gone so far afield from what their mission is that I wouldn't send my kid to a university anywhere in the United States because it would only be an indoctrination camp, and we don't need that. Here's another video for you real quick.
The battles are playing out in the court. They are also playing out in protests and rallies. Senator Chuck Schumer, the minority leader in the Senate, held a news conference that was a lot like a rally outside of the Treasury Department to counter some of the actions by Elon Musk. Take a look.
I am going to stand with you in this fight, and we will win. We will win. We will win. We will win.
Are you satisfied with how your party is pushing back in this moment? Have Democrats found their footing?
Well, I want to make sure that the American people see it across the board in terms of all the different prongs of what's happening. There is the litigation side, legislation, the oversight, the communication, and I'll also add the mobilization that you saw there. When it comes to litigation, what we've seen so far, dozens of lawsuits. This is something that the senators, we had been in touch with the state's attorney general ever since November, talking about what comes next. And you see so far, right now, the state's attorney generals are 3 for 3 in terms of being able to move that forward. Now we're also proceeding with the legislation side. We have the continuing resolution. Basically, in a few weeks, the Republicans are going to try to figure out how they move forward. And they have, for the last 2 years, needed Democratic votes for every single continuing resolution, and they should not count on that this time around.
Okay, you take me to my next question, because your colleague Jeff Merkley basically said he's prepared to try to shut down the government over some of these sledgehammer actions that he's seeing by Elon Musk. Are you prepared to shut down the government, to join Democratic colleagues who want to stand in the way of keeping the government open?
Well, you have to look at what the Trump administration is doing right now. They are simply trying to, they are simply trying to dismantle the government. So yes, look, if we have to take steps to be able to hold them accountable, use the leverage that we have to force it, I cannot support efforts that will continue this lawlessness that we're seeing when it comes to this administration's actions.
Lawlessness. There's one we hadn't heard for a couple days. It's lawless what they're doing.
It's not legal. It's not legal. I'm a congresswoman, whatever she said she was. What's not legal about it? You don't want them to see what you've been doing that's illegal and fraudulent. That's what we want. When you say you didn't vote for that, it's exactly what I voted for.
Well, and he said that they're dismantling the government. Well, yeah, government, this is not the government for the people, by the people. So yeah, dismantle the dang thing. Tear the whole damn thing down.
And then rebuild it back lean and let it do what it's supposed to do, what constitutionally it's meant to do. Yeah. And perhaps we can then, once we get ourselves healthy, then we can say, okay, how can we help others? But we've got to fix this.
And, we talked about this last week, and I don't want to keep going back to last week, but when we talked about USAID and all the things in there, there are some things in there that we as a country might say, you know what, that's worthwhile.
Exactly.
Okay. If that's the case, send it to Congress, have them write a bill for it, and appropriate the funds that way. That is the way we do it. Yes, single issue, but that's how we do it. We don't do it by giving a blank check to some organization that's completely unaccountable.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Okay, John, we talked about this yesterday. We were saying, now one of the reasons.
Is this a segue moment? Because we have to do an ad as well.
No, let me get this is kind of related, and then we can then we need to go to ad, and then we segue. This is related to that. So we talked about this yesterday. You have the cast of clowns who we're talking about as Schumer and Maxine Waters and all the big people on TV that are complaining and crying all the time. The cast of clowns is panicked, like losing their minds. And you have to imagine that first things first is they're losing access to the slush fund that they were able to use to go get stuff done. Bribe people, pay people, incentivize, whatever you want to call it. They took the money from here to use it to get stuff done. Then the next question you got to ask. So first off, you took away my tools. How dare you? Or toys. The second thing is you got to ask this question. Have they made commitments and promises to other people that now expect them to follow through? Hey, I will take care of you for years to come. You take care of this thing for me. Okay, I took care of this thing for you. You owe me now forever. You owe me whatever the terms were. And now the cast of clowns, they can't meet their obligations. It's almost like the mafia, right? You took a loan from a loan shark or the mafia, you gambled it, whatever, you spent the money on whatever you want to spend it on, you owe it back. You've been able to keep up with some of the payments, but now all of a sudden you don't have any money. And now you still, like, what are they worried about? Is it going to be somebody else going to come forward and say, so-and-so was spending time at Lolita Island, or much worse, like that's bad. But think about that, John, like they can't pay their debts
Well, and it's not even those debts. I'm taken back to 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost and she wasn't supposed to lose. And all that money she took and all the, I'll be nice, bribes that she took. I guess that's one way to put it. And then she lost. the people were losing their mind because she wasn't supposed to lose. They had it rigged, they had it fixed, they knew exactly that she was going to win, and then they had their plan. And then all of these people that invested in her and her cabal, now they're just sitting there going, what happened? Remember that? I mean, it was
I do. I mean, we didn't, it's not quite the same thing as what just happened with Harris, where she, what $1.5 billion that she spent in just a couple of months, but still all those donors are probably asking the same question. Like, you were supposed to get in and then take care of me. You didn't get in. Who's going to take care of me?
Well, in addition to what you said, because there are some people, you know, that greased palms that are expecting something in return at some point. The other thing is we've got people like the bartender who came in $50,000 in debt, earns $174,000 a year, and 6 years later, she's worth $30 million. Well, she's living in a different lifestyle now. She's living in a lifestyle that wasn't that $50,000 in debt bartender. She's now with she's a multimillionaire. And she's, I'm sure, living in a lifestyle that's way above what she used to. So she's got she's got furniture that she's bought, she's got a house that she's, you know, purchased, she's got all of these things that cost more money to live, buy, and maintain. What happens when that gravy train is gone? Then what? What about
that? Letitia James from New York.
Letitia James too. Sure.
She's like, I did my job. I got my $15 million. By the way, I mean, she's worth now $15 million just a couple of years later. But now what? So she too wants to make sure that this never comes to light. I don't know if she owes anybody else any more favors. I think now she's just going to act out of fear. Please don't find out so you don't link this back to me. But the bartender probably owes some favors. And you're right. Her lifestyle has now met her income, and her income's gone away.
And with that, I want to thank our sponsor for the Steel Rebel design. I'm sorry for the Just Our Take show. My mouse is really acting up on me again. Let's see. There we go. I want to thank our sponsor, Steel Rebel Design. Steel Rebel Design makes all of the hats, cups, hoodies, shirts, you name it. If it's merch, we sell it, and it comes from Steel Rebel Design. Kim and company over there take really good care of us. They're great to work with. They're good people, and they do really, really good work. They do all of the shirts. This is the old school Just Our Take shirt. We can get you one of those. That's down below, and a link down below. We can get you the Trump fight shirt. This is the one that David and I wore to the Bozeman Trump rally in Montana. And also we had some friends wearing them down in Coachella, California, as well as many others. And then how about this one? I was actually wearing one of these today. The Make America Great Again snow camo hat. It works really well in our current weather here in Montana. This one is actually become one of my favorites. I really like the dark MAGA. We do that one as well, black on black. But I like this one because it's so unique and I get a lot of compliments on it. So that one again is the snow camo Make America Great Again hat. Steel Rebel Design. Their link is down below. If you need anything from them, please let them know. Click the link, talk to Kim. If you use our code, Just Our Take, she'll give you 10% off your first purchase. Kim and company, we really appreciate you for being the primary sponsor of the Just Our Take show. And if you haven't yet, could you hit that thumbs up button? We love it when you do that because there's rumble things in our seats and it kind of gives us a little rumble when you do that. So the more you hit, I'm just kidding about that part, but we went to a furniture store the other day and they had these furniture that was the rumble seats for the home theater system. But anyway, if you hit the thumbs up, it tells the algorithm over at actually all of them, whether it be YouTube, X, or Rumble, tells them, hey, people are watching this and we should be there too.
Exactly.
There you go.
There you go. Hit that thumbs up. Okay. You asked earlier, where to next? We have the Treasury, you have the Department of Education, you have the Department of Defense, the IRS, and I don't think Trump said anything about the IRS, but I will tell you that.
Oh no, he did.
Did he? Okay. I was going to say it's trending, meaning that across the country, people are saying, do the IRS next. That'll be very interesting too. I do think now that every agency's got a heads up. So if they're, like the Treasury, they're going to say, we didn't keep good records. We'll do better next time. Sorry, we weren't very good, is what I expect will happen. But
I thought that Cory Booker said they were getting clicks and likes, but it seems like the real clicks and likes are coming in for IRS.
Yes.
I think when they audit the IRS, that one is going to be a whole bunch of dirt there. I think they're going to find some really stinky diapers in the corner. Here's my thing. I think that the next one should be Treasury. And I think because Treasury is fighting so hard to not be audited, that's where you need to look. And because all of these people are like, the best part is, I heard someone saying today, are you okay with Elon Musk looking at all these social security numbers and all this private personal information? I'm okay with Elon Musk doing it as much as I am the 24-year-old that's there right now looking through all that stuff and leaking that information and doxing me.
Or they were hacked recently too, weren't they? Weren't all the terminals hacked?
That Treasury, yeah.
The Treasury, yeah.
Not just hacked. They set up a virus on them that allowed remote viewing from China.
Yeah, I mean, that's really bad.
Every single workstation in the Treasury.
Which made the news for about 1 minute at most. And people forgot about that pretty quickly. That's far worse. By the way, the Treasury right now, it's read-only access. And Scott Besson hasn't been allowed to actually review the files, and he runs the place. I think the federal judge that decided to block their ability to review that is out of line, is legally out of line and constitutionally out of line. And I think that's going to get fixed pretty quick.
Well, and that's one of those areas where they say we're winning in court.
Yeah.
They're winning in court because they got some, Obama judge or a Biden judge to say, put a hold on this, but it won't stay. Listen, the only thing they want to do is they want to go in and they want to audit. We should have an audit.
You should want an audit. By the way, so I'm not happy with the last Congress in terms of how Republicans acted or how anybody who was not part of the cabal acted. But there were a few times where you had MGT, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and what's her name? Why can't I think of her name from Colorado? The other one that's out.
Boebert.
Yeah, Boebert, Lauren. They're like, asking for an audit of the money going to Ukraine. And you know what they were told? That would be rude. That would be an insult to Ukraine that we would audit the money going to them. Yeah. What? An insult? So,
hey, we've had some fun feedback. I've had a couple emails and a couple private messages from last week. Our guest, we had Mrs. John on. She did a great job, and we're appreciative that she came on, talked about birth tourism, and there's more information that's coming to light with that. But I also talked about bringing forward something that producer Marie sent over to me. Thank you, producer Marie. Always great to get information from you. She sent over a couple links to me from Mark Levin, who Mark Levin is a lawyer. He also has a nationally syndicated television show. He has a podcast, a webcast. He's on the radio. He's written many, many, many really, really good books. So thank you, Mark Levin, for allowing us to tag on to some of your information here. But he has done a lot of research. By the way, he's not a young man. He apparently was in the Reagan administration, worked for Reagan back in the day. And again, he's a lawyer, he's a constitutionalist, and he's done a lot of study. He will unabashedly say that no one has done more research on birthright citizenship than him. Now, I will tell you, this is a very high level video that I'm about to show you. If you do a search on Mark Levin and birthright citizenship, he has been talking about this stuff for decades. There are some pieces that he's got out there that are so deep and so thorough, and he talks in great detail about what was going on. So I'm just going to play this one, and then we'll have a chance to talk about it. It's a little bit long, so I apologize in advance, but it's really good info.
Here's the dirty little secret. Congress has never passed a federal statute that confers birthright citizenship, period, let alone on illegal aliens. So it's not in the Constitution, it's not in federal law, it's not in the legislative history, and yet it is being used. Birthright citizenship. There's no such thing. It's not in the Constitution. We discussed this the other day. Nowhere in the Constitution. It's not in any of the legislative history for the 14th Amendment. None of it. It's not in the 1866 Civil Rights Act, the first one in American history, post-Civil War, to ensure that freed black slaves were given full citizenship in the South because many of the southern states refused. And so that's there in the 14th Amendment. Not once did they discuss immigration, let alone illegal immigration. And for decades after that period, the interpretation of the 14th Amendment was, as I said. That is, it was an amendment that was intended to ensure that black people were emancipated in every respect and citizens of the United States. It had nothing to do with immigration, legal or illegal. And now, of course, birthright citizenship is the argument, is the position, is the policy the Democrat Party holds on to because they want monopoly power for all time.
The Supreme Court has never ruled that the children of illegal aliens are American citizens. So the Supreme Court has never ruled it. Even if they did, it would be wrong. The clause speaks for itself. The author of the clause made it abundantly, unequivocally clear. And let me add one other thing. Let's read the clause together, shall we? All persons born or naturalized in the United States. Let's stop there. If it means what the proponents of birthright citizenship say, it would stop right there. All persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. There's no need for anything else. But that's not what it says. Then it says, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, you have some slip and fall lawyers, some phony constitutional lawyers. They have Esquire after their name. They come on TV. They go all over the place. Jurisdiction means geography. Jurisdiction has nothing to do with geography. Zero. It had to do with political allegiance to the United States of America. How do we know it? Because they said it. And they also excluded everybody that the left and some of the Republicans want to include. Now, here's the good news. There's another part of the Constitution. It's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. Here's what that says in plain English. The Congress shall have power to establish an uniform rule of naturalization. Now, you know what that means? That means Congress, not the courts, not the president, not ICE. It means the United States Congress has the power to regulate immigration in this regard. And guess what, Sean? In the 1920s, that's exactly what it did. The 14th Amendment excludes Indians, that is, Native Americans, as U.S. citizens because they felt that they had an allegiance to their own national tribes. Okay, great. And I believe it was in 1923, Congress reversed course and said, you know what, under the 14th Amendment and under this Article 1, we've decided to grant citizenship, national citizenship,
this is
to all Native Americans.
Because you're talking about
it could not be clearer.
Well, that's pretty interesting, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? And the argument has not changed right up to now. But what's important there, and I want to underscore, is not just that clause that talks about the jurisdiction thereof, which, of course, the left ignores. But it's the other clause. Congress makes the decision, not the courts. Now, that's never stopped the courts, the Supreme Court, from intervening anyway. But here's the dirty little secret. Congress has never passed a federal statute that confers birthright citizenship, period, let alone on illegal aliens. So it's not in the Constitution. It's not in federal law. It's not in the legislative history. And yet it is being used. The fact of the matter is, there is no affirmative step that was taken by Congress, and there's nothing affirmative in the Constitution, quite the contrary, that creates such a right, birthright citizenship. I mean, it even, just listen to the language.
So again, like I said, this was very high level, and Mark Levin does an amazing job of digging in And there's more detail. He actually goes in and talks about the record from the floor of Congress while they were talking about and debating the 14th Amendment, and the specific language of this will only allow for the children of black slaves to become naturalized citizens without further hoops to jump through, for lack of a better term. And there was mention of you can't have somebody just come over here on a vacation or a diplomat or something like that and have a baby, and that person would then become naturalized. That specific language was on. Now, David, I know that you and I have had conversations about this before. The one thing he does say, he says, listen, with this current makeup of the Supreme Court, it's a flip of a coin, whether or not they have the guts to do the Constitution, because the problem is, what do you do? And he says the solution would be you grandfather everyone in from a certain date. They're citizens going forward. That is not what birthright citizenship is. But again, he said that's what I would do if I were on the Supreme Court. That's probably not what this Supreme Court would do. So look, Trump is gutsy for bringing it up, and we'll see where it goes. It's definitely going to make its way to the Supreme Court within the first 2 years of this administration.
And did he say Congress could write a law to clarify? So
further than that, David, he said that only Congress can do that. That right only belongs to Congress.
Right. So I feel like it's a great point. And as much as as much as I don't, we have good reasons not to necessarily trust Congress. But maybe that's the answer, is you need to define it legally for now and forever. And that's our stand. That's what needs to happen. And then it's the law of the land. Then that's codified. It's our law. And that is what it is. And it's clear. And it may be something you and I disagree with, but that then becomes our law. And, and
that's the problem, is because it hasn't been codified. And to Marie's point, it's stunning that no one has challenged it in court. I think it's kind of like that third rail. No one's been gutsy enough to say, all right, let's go for it, because they don't want to hear the answer. Right.
No. And I mean, there's lots of reasons why. Look, if you didn't see 11, 12, I don't know what the total number is, right? Million people flown in, bussed in, streaming in to this country. Like we've said this before, right? When the pendulum swings and it goes so far extreme, then what happens is the natural reaction is a snap back to the other side just as extreme. And this is the snap back extreme to the other side, to say, you're not here legally. We need to do something about that. And by the way, if you have your baby here, don't think your baby here is legal. And that's the snap back to the extreme other side. I'm not saying I'm not qualifying saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, but that's what happens. And if we didn't see that, I don't know that would have been on Trump's agenda, but it is because it would, because that. So what I cut out, and I guess I shouldn't have, in 2015, when he was talking about running for president, but not yet, that's when he said that birthright citizenship does not. He says, look, I've talked to a lot of people, and I personally believe birthright citizenship is a misnomer. It doesn't exist. It's not in the Constitution, and there's many scholars that would tell you the same. So he talked about this. It's not brand new. It's not something that he just came upon. But I would agree with you in that the most recent administration letting all those people in has absolutely brought it to the surface. Yeah, I'm willing to be wrong on when it became important to him first, but yes,
I've been talking about it for a very long time. I'm going to jump in because this is birthright citizenship is a deep dark hole, and it could really take us into some place. But I want to show you our good friend down in California, Gavin Newsom. He had some things to say about.
You mentioned the timeline for rebuilding would be 6 to 9 months. Is that going to happen? And should people rebuild in some parts of California, given how high the fire risk is?
You can't rebuild the same. So we have to rebuild with science. We have to build with climate reality in mind. We have to look at infrastructure, redundancy, systems, ingress, egress as it relates to emergency management and planning, materials, all of that is being reviewed and reconsidered, and with the latest iterations in terms of understanding and technology. And I say technology in the context of how, again, we build the infrastructure to keep it safe, to address undergrounding of lines, how we address the larger issues of redundancy in terms of systems. But more important than anything else is the need to get the debris removed. 30 days to do the hazardous waste. We want to get 6 to 9 months, the rest of the debris done. Concurrently, people are getting permits. So this is all happening, rolling together. And we want to see construction very shortly. And in the next few years, we want to see hundreds, thousands of homes rebuilt.
But I think there's a big question about how do some Californians do that, right? You have State Farm announcing that it has an average 22% interim rate hike for homeowners. The fair insurance plan for the state is just bogged down right now. Your dad, I believe, is on that plan, if I recall. Californians are saying they're not getting the help they need from FAIR. It's really confusing.
Well, FAIR's not a state plan. It's not a taxpayer-funded plan. It's a syndicate pool run by the insurance market itself. And it's the insurer of last resort. And it's existed back to Ronald Reagan in 1968. As it relates to that plan and their exposure, they have reinsurance, a significant amount of reinsurance. We feel strongly at this moment, and again, this changes in real time, that the plan will be able to absorb the losses ultimately.
All right, enough of you. The guy can't even complete a sentence. Just punch him in the face. Stop it. Yeah, and let me get him off the screen too, because that guy just bugs me.
He's going to run for president.
He can run for president. You know what? Listen, I love the idea that he's going to be recalled any day now. And by the way, it only took, I think in record time, they only took a very small time to get the allotted or the required signatures to put the recall together, and then put that forward. And they're going to have a ballot here shortly to recall the Newscomb. But they're also, Donald Trump has said that he's going to be auditing the train to nowhere. The $120 billion train to nowhere. He's auditing that because there's a whole bunch of money missing there too. I know it shocks you from a guy with a slick back greaseball hairdo like him, but you can tell
the nephew of Nancy Pelosi. I mean, there's no dirty deeds being done there. By the way, my insurance, my home insurance. We have a property still in California. And it's a long story, but to sell it, you actually have to pay California state income taxes, and I just don't want to pay them anything. Anyways, we still have it. That our insurance for that property literally doubled in the last 2 years. Doubled, not just went up a couple $100, but doubled. So going up another 22%, that would be like a gift compared to the double it just went through. Not to say that I want anyone to see a higher bill, but if you don't like the higher bills, the insurance companies are reacting to the fact that the area was not cared for, right? They didn't clear out the things that would make a wildfire into an inferno. And so they asked for it. Newscomb said no. And they said, well, it's uninsurable. And now they're saying, if you're forcing me to insure that, I got to raise rates. I have to. Otherwise, we can't, we're not in business if we can't actually raise rates. It will continue to happen until there's different leadership in that state for sure.
Here's a fun one for you. This was such great news. It warmed my heart, and not often do pieces of news about political issues warm my heart, but this one did. Breaking: FBI uncovers 256 emails between Adam Schiff and Jeffrey Epstein.
No, no, don't. Is that Shifty Shift was communicating with Epstein?
Otherwise known as Watermelon Head. I didn't give it a name, but I like it.
When does Patel get confirmed?
They put a 7-day hold on it, so it'll be probably next week, not this week, but next. I believe.
They're delaying the inevitable.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
Yeah.
So looks like the Eagles won. Congratulations, Eagles. There was no three-peat or whatever, so good for the Eagles. Where are they from? New Jersey or something like that, or New Mexico? The New Mexico Eagles.
It's embarrassing. They're from Philadelphia, but whatever. It doesn't,
That's in the U.S., right?
It's in the U.S. It's in the United States.
Just kidding. I've driven past their stadium before. So, listen, congratulations to the Eagles. They'll get a trip down to or over to the White House. At least it's a short trip. And they'll get to see Donald, and they'll bring him one of those jerseys. By the way, did you see the jersey that the hockey team from Florida gave him? The jersey has the number 45-47.
Yeah.
45 dash, not slash. And if you're one of them, they're English majors or a writing specialist.
It's
45 dash would mean 45 through 47.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
It's
Okay. Anyway, so Wednesday, I'm sure that there's going to be more fire hosing to happen. I'd love to see something come of this, the Jeffrey Epstein files coming out soon. When you start looking at the panic, and more of this panic is happening. And by the way, when that one comes out, all of this other stuff, the USAID, the DOGE, it all goes away. I guarantee it, because there are so many people on that list. They're all going to be running for cover. They're going to be running for covering their friends. If they're not on the list, they're going to be covering their friend who is on the list. Their donors that are on the list. It is going to be pandemonium, and I can't wait.
Moving to countries that don't have extradition to the U.S.
if they can get on a plane.
Oh,
what you do know is that all of these people, they already know who they are.
Of course they
already know who they are. So they're going to be on that do not fly list. It's going to be so fun. I know that our audience loves the fact that this is coming soon. And I do, listen, unequivocally, I believe it's going to happen. I really, truly believe it's going to happen. And I can't wait for that time. And by the way, Gitmo's ready. They got new sheets, I heard. I heard they got a brand new shipment of sheets.
They got new sheets. I didn't know they needed sheets. I did see some pictures of some of the violent criminals showing up. It's perfect. And the Cuban leader, whose name I just forgot, he was saying, this is inhumane. It's not okay. It's perfectly humane. We didn't talk about this tonight. We'll save this for later because we could go on and on. There's lots of good stuff. We have a lot of stuff around Marco Rubio, Pam Bondi, all the good work that they're already engaged in. But one thing I will say for Marco Rubio, he has, what was it? Not Panama, Molino, not Molino, sorry, Salvadorian President Bukele. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Is agreed. What's that?
He's not watching the show.
You never know. He's agreed to accept and incarcerate criminals from any country. And he included the MS-13, Trinidad, Aragua. And also, if he said, look, even your U.S. citizens that are violent criminals, you can send them here too. And the prison they have there is not just,
David, if you send me a note, I'll pull that video and we'll play that next week because it is stunning. The prison is stunning. So send me a note and I will definitely pull that video and we'll put that on the show on Wednesday.
That sounds good. But I just want to say that there's room for these people in different parts of the Gitmo's one, and the Central America is another, and there's going to be room for these violent people somewhere in the world, not here in our streets.
So I'm going to play one Super Bowl ad that was played tonight, and it's the only Super Bowl ad I'm going to play. So here you go.
America was founded on an idea of freedom. America's always stepped forward in time of need throughout our short but powerful history.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Tear down this wall.
We've been there for all of it.
The second plane hit the tower.
Our heroes are humble. They have an inner pride to keep this idea alive. Protectors are born, they're not made. America's Secret Service protecting this Super Bowl is asking a few more to step forward.
There you go. No DEI in that commercial, that's for sure.
Wow. I didn't see that one. I saw a lot of the $8 million spots. I'm going to guess that one was not an $8 million spot. That's a great ad.
Okay. David, we'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We really appreciate you. We love you completely and totally, and we look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday. Please tell your friends. I actually met somebody over the weekend, and they said that they want to start watching our show consistently, and I'm hoping that they are with us tonight. Also, I met another person that may become a new sponsor, so we'd be adding a new sponsor to the show. We'll be in negotiations with them, so I hope that they actually joined us tonight. That'd be fun. And if you know of somebody that would like to sponsor the Just Our Take show, gosh, this stuff is getting a little bit more expensive, so we can appreciate it so very much. Anyway, thank you guys all. Producer Marie, thank you for everything that you do. And for all of the rest of you, David, thank you very much. Have a great night, and we will see you soon.
Sounds good. Have a good night.
What will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we the people choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
American black men.